in life, it's important to be real, to always be real, to be real with yourself, to be real with those around you, and not to walk amongst your fellow brothers and sisters outside as if you're weak and scared of what they might think if they knew the real you. Can you imagine that age-old argument being applied here of what if everyone did this? What if everyone was spineless and either too sensitive, being crushed to themselves and being afraid that they would crush others simply by letting their real inner being out? We would live in a very bleak world with downtrodden people crushed by the very fact that they have to go out to the supermarket, get some bread. You might say this is a bit of hyperbole and exaggeration to say it's that bad. But it is, to me it is, you know, like to see these people and to see them biting their tongue, if you will. Everywhere you go, you can feel that. If you're a little bit more open and have good sense of empathy about you, good capability to connect with others, you connect with them even at a distance, in the supermarket, on the street, or on public transportation, and you see that it's not the real them, it's hidden, it's just this boring ass fake facade on the outside, and it's a tragedy. But you know, you can be listening to this and you can kind of get mad. I love the reactions. Many people, the initial reaction to hearing something like this is to attack and to say, how dare he tell me I'm not being real? How dare he allow himself to have this narrative over our beautiful society? And I get the anger, I get where it comes from. It comes from the fact that you need to sell yourself this. It's like, you know, when you go down on your knees and you take the whip and you strike yourself on the back and it hurts, and you do it again, you do it again and again. You have to start then going crazy in your imagination to think, why am I doing this to myself? And you start coming up with answers, and you start believing in those answers. With every strike, you believe in them more and more. And if you've been doing this your entire life and you're successful by some social standards, it's really upsetting for someone to challenge what you've been telling yourself this whole time, that everything is the way it should be, and this is how society should function. We should all be fake. It's difficult, I know, but I think that if you actually settle down and overcome the anger, you can see that there's actually a lot of freedom that you can attain if you can see what I and other people like me, there's many, are talking about. What is this existence? Why are we alive? Are we alive just to conform, just to contribute to a society? I believe that second one. I believe, yes, we should contribute to a society. That's one of the most wonderful things in the world, contributing, being selfless. But being truly selfless is not being afraid to be yourself. Being truly selfless is telling yourself you're an idiot for whipping your back. Telling yourself all these things you've been believing are bullshit. Putting the whip down and going to give someone a hug. That's being selfless. It's not being selfless to keep whipping yourself because you think that that's what society wants. And to a certain degree, that's what society's told you. And because I want to be clear here, I don't mean to insinuate that any of this is anyone's fault. I think it's very sad. It's one of the saddest things in the world that this is actually instilled in infants and toddlers, in those developing young, beautiful, fragile minds that have so much potential. A human being that's born is just the most amazing thing in the world. When that fresh mind learns the world. Can you imagine? It doesn't matter what kind of circumstances you bear a child in, they immediately come up to understanding the standards. A baby born today in 2020 is the same genetically as a baby born in 2000 BC, 4,000 years ago, maybe when they were building the pyramids. That baby is the same, but how different does the mind become as it grows up then versus it grows up now? So it's so malleable, and all of these things we do, a lot of it comes down to the parents who themselves have been twisted when they were infants, and it's through generations. And I think that the number one culprit is the departure from real parenting and real fostering of childhood freedom and intellect. We crush that as much as possible, and we have the thesis. And I love that it doesn't matter which side you are on politically, left or right, even the left, which are all people are created equal, they should add in a little asterisk to that. They believe all people are created equal and dumb, because all of the doctrines you see everywhere, in finance, economics, in law, in science, a lot of the fundamental frameworks of these fields of study hold it as a self-evident truth that people are wicked and dumb, most likely. And you have to work with that in mind. You have to develop systems with that in mind. And it's taken as a given. And because it has been taken as a given, this is exactly where we're headed. This is exactly the society we continue to shape. It doesn't matter how great of innovation we create, technology, all of it goes to dumbing down and reducing the first few years of life in babies, and make things easy for parents so that they don't even have to pay attention and not bond with their kids, and a ton of things, everything, even from when you think about how the first tribal people bore their babies versus how today we have them strapped in a carriage and in diapers until 5 years old. Things like this really affect you. And also on the playground, when there's one toddler that's just started to walk and another toddler that's just started to walk, and they go and they want to touch each other, just a touch Strangers, total strangers on the playground, and they just want to touch. You'll see that if you have a child, their first instinct, if you don't tell them anything, is to touch other kids. Apes do it. They do it as a sign of, I want to be your friend. And the number one thing we do, because we're cowards, is to say, oh, honey, don't touch stranger. Don't touch that other kid. No, you have to ask. Maybe they don't want to. They want to. They want to. And you're projecting this fakeness that we all carry with us as adults onto the kids, and then they become fake. Because as a kid, you remember that, not in your, adult type of memory that you'll recall later, but in your essence, you encode that you weren't allowed to do what came naturally. And that's why when you grow up, you don't do what comes naturally. Instead, you pick up the whip and you get on your knees. But it's not as bad as it seems, because if you think about it, you can say, oh my God, we're totally doomed. How can we break out of this? It's very easy to break out of it. You just have to think about this critically. Don't be afraid to admit mistakes, that whipping yourself till now has been a mistake. Believe in love and believe in transformation, and just do it. But the biggest thing is fear. I think that in our modern society, there's a huge part of our brain that's afraid. And I just want to tell all of you, don't be afraid to be yourselves. And this goes, a lot of the argument against this is like, well, what if someone is evil? What if someone is a bad person? You're going to tell them to be themselves? I think that exactly, if they're a bad person, they should be themselves. Because if they're always themselves, and if we encourage them to always be themselves, I think we'll catch small evils and fix them. Because I don't think anyone is inherently evil for the purpose of being evil. They're evil for all kinds of reasons, internal or external, that they notice, in few cases, they do want to just cause harm, but maybe there's a way to make them understand what they're doing. But I'm not talking about these edge cases. I'm talking about most people. Most people, even if a bad thought comes to them, it's much healthier to express it, to share it, than to repress it, because then it goes down within them and it can fester. So if you live free, if you always say the things that you think, if you always do the things that you feel like doing, obviously within don't lose your job, we have to all jump through hoops to feed ourselves, but even that we can improve. We can make it more worthwhile if we act freely. So you if you do that, you'll see that there's so much freedom to be experienced, and just feel like you're light and effortless. And anytime when someone asks you to shut up, anytime when someone asks you to not be yourself, you should know that that's evil, and to go away from that, and not say that they have a right to say that, because I don't think anyone does. That's the true freedom of oppression. Telling you in your mind and your thoughts to be locked up is the same as locking you in a cage, which I'm sure you guys would agree is evil. Anyway, just some thoughts after a long day of work.